doing what you do. I'm greatly and deeply honored to be around such a great group of people, professionals. This is very important, what's going on here. It's an event that none of us have seen in a lifetime or for a long time in history. Even back in Athens in 1948, Athens, Tennessee, when the citizens took up arms against the corrupt election officials.
Probably have to speak up, please.
Okay. Even then, the militia wasn't involved. It was just the township. So this is unprecedented. You guys are making history, and I'm very grateful that you're all here. So thank you for coming out. We're going to do another class called the Public Service Questionnaire. We've already done this once, so if you were here with us for the first one, it's going to be about the same material. I have a few of the public service questionnaires here. I'll put them on the table or pass them around. There's probably not enough for everybody, but if you would, on the back here, there's a website address where you can go and you can download this as well. So, put that in your phone if you don't get one of these, or hit me up later and I'll have more. So, I'll put those right here, I guess. Right there. Thank you. We wanted to empower you guys just a little bit and give you a little bit of confidence in knowing how to conduct yourself if you're hassled and harassed when you leave here. If any authorities were to be watching you and to pull you over, we'd like to give you some kind of direction on how to handle yourself. The public service questionnaire. Let me explain what the angle is on this thing. You see, everything's commercial. The lifeblood of commerciality is contracts. So whether you realize it or not, when you get pulled over, they're seeking the contract with you. Okay? But you, as a party to the contract, you have a right to know who they are. See, if they pull up in a car and they got flashing lights and uniforms, okay, they look like police officials, but are they? See, we've been assuming that they are. So we assume that the BLM had authority. They don't. Okay? So this is the dangers we get into when we assume things. So the public service questionnaire, it forces them to ID themselves to us. Now, this is an Article 5 requirement in the U.S. Code, Section 522A, and they have to identify themselves to us. If they do not, and some will not, some will take this and throw it on the roadside. If they do that, just get the name, look at the badge, and write down the badge number, all right? And then what's that? Okay. Well, I need to just take an image of it. Oh. That was kind of quick. We'll do that at the end. They have to identify themselves. If they don't, then we can get them for obstruction of justice. Because, number one, we have the right in a contract to know who we're contracting with. If they deny us that right, then the contract's null and void. Okay? It doesn't hold any water. If they force contract, the contract's null and void. All right? So if they ask you to sign the ticket, go ahead and sign it. And sign it under duress. Just write down the words under duress. Really, these agencies that want you to sign anything, I signed my unemployment papers under duress. Yeah, I was going to get benefits, but I should have got a lot more. Okay? And it was under duress that I subject myself to their policies and procedures because I don't agree with them. We all deserve more. The bankers are all hoarding, all the funds and money that is ours. Okay? So everything's under duress. It really is with these government agencies. So sign your ticket under duress, UCC 1-308. UCC is Uniform Commercial Code. Uniform meaning everywhere, code meaning We don't want you to figure it out. So, it's an international law that they all abide by. It's a banker law. So in a situation where you might have been speeding or driving, where's Jason at? Driving around with your lights off.
There he is.
In my truck.
Where you would have had nothing to come back at them with, now you do. Because it'll go one of either two ways. They'll either fill out the information and give it back to you, or not. Either way you win. Okay?
And if they don't, we can go by the merry way, right?
Well, I'm going to get into that right here. That's a good segue. Now, when you pulled over, it's best that you lock your doors, you roll up your windows, and you crack your window about that much. All right? Think of that home as your domicile. That's your house. And you don't have to come out of the house, and they can't come into it unless they have a search warrant. Okay? I've been asked many times, say, do you mind if we search your car? Well, yeah, I mind. Well, why is that? Well, sir, will you step out of your car? No, I won't. Well, why not? I say, well, I don't feel safe. Well, why don't you feel safe? I'm a cop. And I said, well, you say you are, but I don't know you are. And they give you this, what the hell are you talking about? Well, I'm talking contract law. You say you are, but what do I have in writing? How can I prove it? So until he's ready to give me that information, I'm controlling the contract. Because as one of the parties of the contract, you have the right to set forth your terms and conditions in the contract. So being pulled over on the side of the road, my terms and conditions are going to be this. He's going to come up and ask you for your driver's license or registration. You say, you know what, I have that, officer, and I'll be glad to show that to you. But before I do that, I need you to properly identify yourself. And then through that crack, just send out this little PSQ. All right? Tell them it's an Article 5 requirement. It's on the paperwork on the back. There's a lot of cool things back there you can get to know. Notice at the top I put for official use only.
Nice.
You're the officials, not him. Now, we send these out to anybody that tries to contract with us, government officials. We send them out through the mail, too. And if they become non-responsive and they don't answer, well, in contract law, silence is consent. So if you ignore me, then you're going to agree to my terms and conditions. So we bring you into contract that way. And we're hoping to get this out to the public servants to help them understand that they can be held liable if they ignore us. There's way too much ignoring going on. Okay? So, and if you remain calm and you talk, you don't get fidgety and you're not, losing your mind. Usually cops are there's a lot of good police officers out there. There's even good politicians. There's even good judges. All right, but there's not enough. We need more. So when you're educating that police officer on the side of the road, keep your calm, keep your cool. And if he disregards you and says, well, I'm not going to fill that out, I don't have to. Give me your license and registration. Well, at that time, you put him on notice, all right, and he refused you. So now you can file a case against that officer for obstruction of justice. Because he's forcing you into contract and not identifying himself. All right, so just go with the flow. Say, okay, you sure you want to do that? Just look at it. Oh, yeah, give me your license. Say, okay. Then when he comes back with a ticket, sign it under duress. UCC 1-308. Because when you take that ticket to court or you mail that ticket back in, okay, you're proving to the magistrate that you never agreed to any contract. Now, there's more to it. I've been studying for a long time on this, so there's more to it. But it's not hard stuff. You can learn it. They make it out to be hard and confusing, so that you will shy away, so that you do think that you're not smart enough. But I'm here to tell you, it's not hard. It is easy once you know the parameters and rules of the game.
What if you just say nothing? You know, say the guy's not, well, filling his side of the contract, why not just say,
If you
I
say
don't have to
nothing,
agree with you, then I just,
if you say nothing, silence is consent.
oh,
So see, we all have to answer. That's the bad part about this. When you're sent a bill, think of it this way. Have you ever got a bill from something you know you didn't know, and it comes to you anyway, and it keeps coming? They keep saying, oh, we're going to judge you, we're going to do this and everything. Well, if you don't answer that, even though you don't owe the bill, okay, they can get a judgment on you. So you have to be responsive in commerce. You need to answer that, okay? Answer it with, upon proof of claim, I'll be glad to pay it. Show me the contract, okay? Let me tell you this too. A contract is not a loan. I went to battle with my banks over my vehicles. I cornered them. I said, show me the loan. They were like, well, there's a contract. You signed it, right? I said, well, that's a nice contract and all. I said, but that's not the loan. It's a contract. I said, that's evidence of the loan. Well, where's the loan? See, the loan has to be an actual transfer of actual money. Okay? And we'll save that term. Money's that's a whole class on its own. But let's assume that money is real, and you know. But the deal is they can't do it by clicks in a bank. There has to be transfer of goods from one place to another. That proves that there was a loan, that there was exchange. That's what's lacking in the loan world right now. There's none of that. They're doing clicks in a bank, and it doesn't qualify under their definition of a loan. So, I lost my 2 vehicles, but I figured that would happen. I sure learned a lot, and I know who those guys are now. So I'm ready. I'm gearing back up. So let's go over the PS2 just a little bit. At the top, you'll see an ID badge number. Make sure he fills that in. If he doesn't fill it in, you fill it in. Question number 4: Public Service Bonding Agency. Very important. And bond numbers. The reason you want the bond in the agency is because if he continues to be non-responsive and he continues to force you in the contract, well, you can contact the surety who holds the insurance policy, otherwise known as the bond, and you can file a complaint on it. They don't want you to have that information. They try to hide it from you.
That's their personal bond, correct?
As a result of filing against the bond, they get enough complaints on that, and it gets investigated. And they have a hearing, have a judgment, and then they can no longer serve any public bond.
That's he said that if the bond gets enough complaints on it, then they do something. Well, let me tweak the thinking here a little bit. I don't care what they say. If I got a complaint, I don't care if there's been no other complaints. You're going to hear me and you're going to do something about it. That's the attitude we need to have. Okay? I'm not going to wait until 2 other people complain about the guy. I'm going to press my issue. If the surety wants to become non-responsive and not do anything, then I'll contact the shareholders and say, hey, do you know your surety is laying in bed with this crooked sheriff that did you guys know that? Give them a chance. They become non-responsive. The whole process stops all over again on them. So, now we're not trying to go out and make war with everybody. We just want them to do their job. They're not doing it. We're going to have to tag it or kick them in the butt just a little bit to get them moving on. See, they've all fallen asleep. They think that they have authority over us. They only have borrowed sovereignty. We, the people, loan them our sovereignty so that they can perform their duties. And if we loan them our sovereignty to perform their duties, we can take it back. One way we can take it back is holding them monetarily accountable for their injuries. If you think you've not been injured, I'm sorry for you guys. Anybody here that thinks you have never been injured, I'm sorry. You got some studying to do. Because I promise you, everyone here on this piece of property has been injured. The thing is that they've gotten so good at it that they don't have to show up at your doorstep. You never know who they are, and yet they can injure you and bilk you for money. What we see going on across the United States right now is now banks have this derivatives issue that they caused themselves, that they're going out and trying to snatch property to pay for it all. That's what I think's happening. All right. So we gotta learn how to rebut these guys. We gotta be responsive. We gotta know who we are. We gotta know that we're the people. The power comes from us, and we're just borrowing it. Now, most of the laws that they say is laws that they'll hit you with, especially with speeding tickets and the like, they're only codes. Know why they're called code? Because they're not positive law. If they were positive law, they would call them positive law, right? They wouldn't call them codes, statutes, rules, regulations, public laws, or anything like that. Okay? So that means something. And what that means is, you're going to love this. Code derives its authority from your consent. That's why they use it. Now, they've taken the Constitution, they've codified it. Okay? But if you know the rules of the game, then you know that that a code that they're trying to get you on a speeding ticket or whatever, that you don't consent to it, then how are they going to make the contract stick? You see, you write them a letter and say, I don't relinquish jurisdiction to you. You're not allowed to presume anything else about me. And I object. I do not consent.
But even if you run into that situation, you actually take it to court and you object to the judge on jurisdiction and all that, and the judge is in bed with the police officer. I mean, so
I
see what I'm saying?
advise all my people. I haven't been to court maybe a couple of times back when I was younger. I've learned to write such good letters that they leave me alone. So when I get a ticket, I'll write a letter and say, this is code. Here's your Constitution. Oh, look at this in the Constitution. I looked at Nevada's Constitution last night. You know what I found?
It's disturbing.
It was the corporation thing. Steve, do you remember what I told you? What was that?
Well, it has to deal with legal power vested in the state over any type of.
It was the corporation thing. Municipality. Oh, the title of inside the Constitution of the state, it said municipalities and other corporations.
Yeah.
Now think about that. Think about the word magic going there.
Well,
It
it's
said
all corporations.
municipalities and other corporations. Well, what they're saying there, in a sly way, is that the municipality is a corporation. Make sense? Think about it this way. If the municipality is a corporation, how are you subject to it?
Well, I had them tell me that when I signed the license, that was the contract.
What, the Constitution?
No. That like I had got a ticket. I went to court. I was fighting jurisdiction. I was fighting all that, and they said, "Well, but when you sign that to get your driver's license, that is the contract."
Okay, well, tell that guy. Say, hey, what evidence do you have that I'm in a commercial capacity?
So go the sovereignty route.
Well, see, those licenses are for commercial use only.
Right. With your being paid commerce and.
So if you're not in commerce,
Right.
you're not working. You're not really using that license.
See, I tried that, and the judge still hammers me.
Oh, well, yeah, that's what they do. And that's why we're doing this class. Now, understand, if you guys show up in court, you go to court, you're offering your body up as surety. You're saying, here, lock me up, hurt me. I'll pay for it. So don't go. Learn how to write your letters. Request a Skype conference. You can appear via Skype. A lot of times, just by requiring appearance by Skype, they'll drop the case. Why? because they know you can record them. And they don't want that, because their procedures are not constitutional. No matter what the facts are in your case, we don't care about the facts, because you can always bust them on procedural violations every single time. You don't get absolutes out of me very often, but you're getting one now. Every single time there's violations. Okay? So, as I said before, on the back here, if you don't get a copy of one of these, you can come to my website right there and you can download more copies of it. Remember, any public official, public servant that's attempting to contract with you, you can send this through the mail, you can stick it out the window of your car, and this is going to give you a little power, whereas before you had nothing. Because you guarantee it, when you put them on notice by handing this to them, they're going to mess up one way or the other. So, that's about the end of my spiel. Does anybody have any questions?
What about when they come up to you? We have video and audio recording at this moment. How does that fit into the whole scheme of being pulled over?
Oh, that's good. I mean,
Okay.
That's real
like you
good.
said, because you can record them through Skype, so that's the thing. They're recording, so it's the same thing.
Right. Let's say that. Let's say they want you to come in
Can't share their
and
videos.
inform them that that you're over in the south of France and you can't make it. Okay. You say, well, I can come to you via Skype. Oh, by the way, I've got this cool recording. Here, I'll send it over to you now. Have a look at that, and then I'll see you on Skype day. You do that. I can't promise you, but I can say this. More than likely, they're going to cancel.
What if you're like, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, I think you mentioned in the last class, even if you admit, yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking, I know I was speaking on camera or recording.
Don't say anything.
Yeah, so it's nothing.
Don't.
So it's too late for me. I already said, I'm sorry, man.
If he's forcible and he's asking a question, you look at him and say, am I legally required to answer that question? And then if he lies and says, yes, you are, guess what? Now you got him on that. He just lied to you. Especially if you got a camcorder going. You know, he's going to probably go back and say, well, I didn't do that. Okay, you don't believe him, fella. We got it on camera.
I always ask them if they're recording. Because if they lie to you on camera and then you can't find the recording.
What, they're recording?
Yeah, are you recording?
They have to have this.
Well, but if it's something actually against them, you won't get that video. It will be accidentally deleted.
You just go in the next day and get it.
Yep.
Listen, I can speak to this. I came here, I had court last Tuesday in Houston County. I was trying to get out of it, but I knew I was coming back here, so I had to book a flight to get back. And they already knew the case was a dud. They had lost the recording, but we had requested it the day after I got arrested, so we already had a copy when they first had it. They didn't remember that they gave us a copy. So we presented it back with their own evidence that they thought they lost, and then we filed to record in the courtroom, and 12 hours later the case was dropped.
But see, they said they lost it though.
But we already had it.
But yeah, so you do it right away.
Conference?
Oh, a Skype conference.
I'll explain that to you.
SKYPE.
I'll get that.
You can record it.
Could I ask about clarification from the audience?
I appreciate
You
it.
send your letters to the
Definitely.
court. It will be accepted as you being
My whole family.
present in the case.
That's why we
Send it
tried to bring a little bit of food down and
Absolutely not.
No?
doing what we're doing. They're going door to door, get signatures, get rid of dirty area.
I think what you're thinking about there is the affidavit. You see, an affidavit can be counted as a claimant in the
They have
court.
their first four
The attorneys will
fathers
come
to
in,
write
the claimant will be
Constitution.
with them, but they'll have an affidavit. Now, also, if you're over there on the defendant's side and the prosecutor's over there and you notice the claimant's not there, then what should you ask to see before you go forward? The affidavit. We'll look at the judge in black robe and say, hey, where's the claimant at? And they'll go, well, he's the representative right there. So, well, that's a prosecutor. He's not the claimant. I haven't seen the claim. I haven't seen the affidavit. What are we doing here?
So you mean like a victim? So you mean like a victim?
Well,
Like in other words, there's no victim? Is that
well, there's no claimant.
The injured party.
injured party? So,
What
okay.
he's saying is a no victim, no crime concept is what he's talking about.
That's a true, correct concept,
Okay.
yes. Okay, guys, I'm going to turn it over to my other private attorney general friend, Mr. Steve Curry.
All right. I was just going to do some general housekeeping. Is Jerry still here? Standing right over there?
Hey, Jeff, is Jerry still around?
Jerry still around? Come on up. I got some direct information for you and some direction, if I may. If none of you can hear me, come on up where you can, because I'm not going to repeat too much of this. I'm going to do a segue here with my buddy Jeff from contract law, commercial law. I'm going to give you a little history as to what you guys are dealing with in all contracts. I'm going to put out a term, it's called common law, which Jeff has already alluded to. You break the words common law down, and what you have is man, the first three letters, C-O-M, commerce, or mon, law. Everything we're seeing in the production of law comes from our judicial friends, also known as attorneys, judges, magistrates. They have not created the language, but they've sure put it to some strange and nefarious purposes. I'm going to hit pretty hard today the judiciary, which does not exist in my mind. It is an illusionary corporation. It is a foreign corporation, and this is why Jeff here is telling you you don't have to comply with any court order. And that's an absolute fact. I'd like you guys to consider the courts your enemies. Judges are your enemies. Lawyers are also known as attorneys or esquires. Take the term attorney, for instance. What's the last three letters in that, in attorney? M-O-N-Y, right? Or O-N-Y. It refers to money. The first letters of that title, turn of the money. Every stinking lawyer, that's his job, is to turn the money into the court. That money, believe it or not, it's going to end up over in Great Britain and the Vatican, all right? Because we're all under contract with the Vatican, believe it or not. And I'm going to show you how that's done in a quick order. I have several certificates on hand today, one of which is not my birth certificate, but the next time you look at your birth certificate, you're going to find your contract, which was presented to you without your knowledge, without your consent or awareness. Let me do a sidestep here, sidebar. Everybody's familiar with their Bible, the book of Genesis, Adam and Eve. We had two people. We had Adam representing man. We had Eve representing the natural woman. By what authority or jurisdiction did Adam and Eve live?
Creator God. God's authority.
God's authority. What have the courts and not our government, but corporations done to that contract that Adam and Eve, that you and I had at birth? They flipped it on us, haven't they? And they flipped it within the hour of your birth. At your birth, you received from your Creator, and you guys can define your Creator any way you want. I have mine, you have yours, I honor yours, please honor mine. At birth, you received inalienable natural rights. Everybody's heard those terms. Everybody received that at birth. What was taken from you in the first hour of your life? Your property and the property of your parents. When the clinic where you were born, the hospital that you were born, They have the assigned duty to act as the corporate state. They presented your parents with a contract. And if you look at that contract, you're going to find in big print up there, certificate of birth. Certificate of birth. Below that, you're going to find your father's name, all in uppercase. And you're going to find your mother's name, all in uppercase. And below each of those names is this X with a line. And this document is awaiting the signature of your parents. That document does two things. One good, one bad. The first that it does bad is that your parents have now sold your bond, sold you to the Vatican where they keep all of these records. As, you know that X with the line underneath their straw man name? Straw man, I mean, uppercase, corporate name. Right down on that line, and this has gotten to the point where it's ridiculous. Anybody have a checkbook on them? All right.
The line is a sentence.
Underneath, if you take a jeweler's loupe sometimes, just a magnifying lens, look what's printed in very, very microscopic detail below that line. It says authorized agent. That's on all your checks. That is currently implemented in all contracts, from checkbooks to birth certificates and all. What that line represents is consent. It's like a traffic ticket, okay? We talked about a police officer pulling you over. Here we go. This is perfect. I can see him. I can kind of see the line in there already. This is not terribly well defined, but here's where Jeff would sign his name. Look at what's up top here in the upper left corner. Bold case, uppercase. That's corporate identification of you. Now, here's where it gets interesting. All the way back to Rome, they had commercial law all set up. And using terms like citizen, subject, person, they were able to identify each and every one of their subjects and citizens. Subjects, by the way, were conquered people. Persons are also conquered people. Citizens of Rome, those were the natives of Italy, natives of the city of Rome. And they had something of honor. This is why we have to be very careful in our contracts with these corporate bandits that have taken over our country, because we no longer want to be identified as citizens, subjects, and persons. The term persons, if you go way back in common law, what are we referring to? A person is an individual with service or debt owed. Now take the subject, again, the term subject, it is a conquered people, right? Roman corporate commercial law is very, very powerful. If you thought the Roman Empire ended, you're wrong. They're still here. And they're very active right here in the United States of America. And they call you a citizen. They call you a subject. They call someone they want to call into their court a person. Anytime you're issued a summons or a subpoena to appear in court, they call you by that name.
All caps.
By your corporate name. That's the only way they can charge you. That's the only way they can compel you to get into court. Now, let's tie two notions together here. Adam and Eve, man and woman. Again, who has power and jurisdiction over that man or woman?
God.
What have the courts done? They've taken the seat of God,
They
haven't they?
think they're God.
Yeah,
They have.
exactly what you're
And they've done it unmercifully, unlawfully, illegally. And I'm not going to throw the term in there unconstitutionally, because I've got to talk to you guys about this. Let me hit this real quick. Corporations. Good definition of a corporation. And it comes out of the Black's Law Dictionary. A corporation is defined as a two-dimensional, fictional, artificial, illusionary device it only has power in the contemplation of law. Did I say it had law to it? contemplation of law, meaning we're contemplating about law. It has nothing to do with law. It has to do with the jurisprudence. It has to do with the practice of law. And it is in these practices of law that they've gang tackled us. They have absolutely come after every one of us. For what reason? Tribute to Great Britain and the city of Rome and the Vatican. Let me give you some more history while we're talking about the Vatican. I want you guys to have a good, solid foundation. When you go back home, and I'm going to talk about that too. When you go back home, I want you to take these words back with you. This information we're giving you. I skipped one very important thing. What's that?
After we started, next week we say.
Okay. Corporations, two-dimensional, artificial, fictional pieces of paper. Do you see any body in that? What are we? Three-dimensional flesh and blood living organisms, aren't we? How does a two-dimensional, artificial, fictitious, illusionary document like this have any power over us? We're talking about corporate law. Jeff did a really good thing here. Corporations are all based on the commercial contract between the corporation and a person, not you. You, as Adam, did you ever give consent to these people stealing your property? Consent? If you sign a document, you are in contract with these people. A good way out of this, guys, is to revoke that consent because of the fraud that took place, not only with your birth certificate, but for every traffic ticket you got.
Can you explain involuntary servitude as opposed to voluntary servitude as that applies?
I sure can, and it does. We have some very good corporations here in the United States and globally. These are corporations that understand the limitations provided them in their own charter. And this is something people cannot do. This is something that BLM can't do. This is something that the United States of America Corporation, Inc. cannot do. They can't put you into servitude or slavery without your consent. Involuntary consent is bad. It's called slavery.
How can you get out of servitude?
You revoke your consent.
And how do you do that?
You say that I was forced into signing that traffic ticket.
Under duress.
Under duress. Here's another term, without prejudice. Without prejudice. Meaning, you can always bring charges back against them. If you ever see the with prejudice, that's usually coming from a court, and they're telling you that you can never argue again. We will not accept your case again. But when you write, like on my driver's license, it says without consent, without prejudice, that means they can stop me and they can do what they think they are doing lawfully and legally, but I give up none of my rights, and I can always take that officer on at a later time. Let's look at a couple more definitions here. Injury. Jeff talked about injury. Every one of you has suffered injury. If you understand the lawful definition of injury, it is the lawful invasion of a legal right. I believe we just covered the fact that you had inalienable and natural rights at your birth. What happened in that first hour with the birth certificate? That contract became null and void right there. If you want to regain your freedom, if you want to regain your freedom and your manhood and your womanhood, you can take your birth certificate and go down and get a certified copy, stamped again by the de facto clerk down there. And on the back, or you can do it on the front of the document too, you write null and void. Send it into the Vatican, see what they do. Oh, you're now off their list. Speaking of null and voids, all contracts with the Justice Department issued in the name, or from the name, prosecuted from the point of view of the people of the state of Nevada, the people of the state of Colorado. Anytime you see that verbiage in any kind of deal from the court, get out your black felt pen, null and void. Send it back to the court, see what happens. And they'll go, hold it. He's got us. We have no more jurisdiction. And you know why? I have a document right here. There's been several of you look at it. This is an admission of treason against the people of the state of Colorado and against me. In their verbiage from the Secretary of State of Colorado, they're admitting to the use of that phrase, people of the state of Colorado versus Steve Curry. Guess what can't be trademarked, copyrighted, patented, or incorporated? Who was Adam and Eve? Man and woman. What are people? Three-dimensional, flesh and blood, breathing, living, cellular composites of space dust. That's my definition. We're all space dust. I don't know if you understood that, but we're made up of calcium, iron, aluminum. We need thorium and uranium to keep these triggers going up here so we can think and talk and act and intimidate people. By the way, I don't know how many of you knew this, but I am also a scientific researcher. I study meteorites. I have a long list of disciplines that I've studied, everything from astrobiology to geology, planetary geomorphology, astrochemistry, astrophysics, the whole long line. And that's one of the reasons I'm here, because I saw a particular video. This is not a singular reason, but I saw an interview by the name of a guy named Rusty Hill. How many of you seen the video of Rusty Hill, the whistleblower on Reed? It was Rusty Hill that broke the story about Rusty Hill being up with a group of BLMers, and he was taking them on tour up here, and he picked up this rock. And he said, oh my God, that looks like a meteorite. And it's heavy, very dense. So what does he do? He wants to confirm his story. He wants to confirm his facts. And as a scientist, I never do anything without having the facts behind me, the documentation.
Is that the survey guy?
No, he's a land developer.
Or land developer, okay.
Out of Las Vegas. He's the one that broke the story on Reed, and bless his heart, he's a good man. What he found was that this entire area here is what we know as a paleo impact crater. And on this land is a plethora, if you would, of very rare to-earth minerals and elements, one of which was magnesium dolomite, otherwise known as magnesium sulfite. Magnesium sulfite is the metallic igniter for rocket fuel. Rusty Hill broke that story. Got my interest. I didn't need any more interest, but that was a driving force, one of the driving forces to bring me down here. And Mr. Bubdy knows all about this now. As a matter of fact, I gifted him one of my favorite meteorites out of my collection of 50,000 meteorites. Well, I thought they were rare. Meteorites are no way on Earth rare. And when you start finding huge concentrations of precious and heavy metals like magnesium dolomite, sulfite, gold, silver, platinum, zinc, uranium, thorium, the whole 9 yards, you are standing on what the corporations want to take from Mr. Bubdy. Has nothing to do with turtles. You guys knew that. Had nothing to do with
and the Bundy connection with how these guys lined up against them, you can see that about 30 days prior to this action, Sheriff Gillespie was called to Washington, D.C. to receive an award in Harry Reid's office, and all nice and handshake and read into the congressional record. Nice picture. I'll share it with you. I'll be putting it up on my website, and I'll share that with you after he's finished speaking. But this is a deliberate conspiracy to reach out and control the lawful agencies that would stand as a buffer or the check and balance to protect Mr. Bundy from this situation, which is Sheriff Gillespie. Now we know why and how Sheriff Gillespie was bought and kind of paid off by this nice little award in D.C. for Sheriff of the Year. But last time I checked, he didn't take a bullet. He didn't do anything special. How many sheriffs are awarded from some county in the middle of nowhere by a senator? We'll share that with you on the website too.
Okay, that was a nice segue, and I appreciate Tom doing that. Here's the bigger picture for you on Mr. Reid. Last week I sat down and composed an arrest warrant for Mr. Reid. It's being worked on as we speak. You guys heard of the arrest warrant that went against Eric Holder. There was an arrest warrant for him last week, and he didn't, well, he found out about it, and he decided, well, I'm not going to show up to that speaking engagement. The arrest warrant that I put out on Mr. Reid and his family members of Reid Family Trust will be executed here in the state of Nevada very shortly. Mr. Reid's reputation is in the toilet. Okay, just so you know. We were watching a video the other day of Judge Jeannie. She's a former federal prosecutor, and she was having a lot of fun at Mr. Reid's expense. And she said, well, Harry, being a former prosecutor, I would dream of the day that I could get you into my grand jury and have you sit there under oath and lie to me, Harry. Come on, Harry. Come into the grand jury. Come on, Harry. Make my day, Harry. He's being pummeled. And he's being pummeled because he's an idiot, and he put the information out there for people to attack him. I have his information. Rusty Hill has his information. A little more background on that. The Chinese, being who they are, large corporate family, they want the minerals that Mr. Bundy has here. They paid Mr. Reid and his boy Rory $5 billion to bring it into him. Resources here are worth quite a bit more than $5 billion.
That's probably just a bucket load on the top.
Do you know what I put in my indictment to Mr. Reid? Foreign agent, traitor,
Thank you.
saboteur, conspirator, to commit felony conspiracy, commit felonies against the people, against Mr. Bundy and his property. Reminds me of one more designation I was going to make, one more draft, if you would, back to Republican Roman law. How many have seen the movie Gladiator? You need to watch it again after hearing me today. Subjects and citizens of Rome. The city of Rome is run by mob rule. Remember the games? The games were created to pacify and entertain the subjects, actually the citizens. They used subjects in the amphitheater. These subjects were chased around by lions and all of that. The subjects and citizens of Rome are known to the aristocrat leaders of Rome, the emperors, as property. Rome went out there and they conquered all these lands and it became their property. Corporations can own property, not legitimately, of course. What is the one property they cannot own? A corporation? What's a corporation? Two-dimensional, fictional, artificial piece of Guess who can't own you? Guess who can't own you as a man? I've been trying to tell you all very sincerely what I think of you gentlemen and women. I'm really proud to be out here. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you and you, young lady. Guess what you become when I'm proud of you? When I am proud of you, what do you become? You become my property. Your husband is your property. You are your husband's property. Did you know that? By all definitions, we have under those inalienable natural rights the condition of love, relationships. If I come up to this young man and I say, I am proud of you, I am. Here's one for you. Any arguments in court? Jeff can back me up on this. Anytime you go into a court of law, don't go in there, first off. Those courts aren't owned by you, they're owned by Great Britain and England and the Vatican. Don't ever go into a court of law again. If you think you have to, call Jeff, call me. And we're going to show you how to do it, and I'm going to explain in about 2 sentences how you do it. We're working with a fellow by the name of Carl Lentz. Magnificent man. He's never lost a case ever, and he spends about 2 seconds in a court of law. He's in and out.
Nice.
He provides that judge with a 2-sentence statement. I, lowercase, the dot on top, I am a natural man, and you have no proper, lawful, legal, don't use the word constitutional, you have no proper legal, lawful jurisdiction, authority, or power over me because I am. I am a man. I am a natural man, gifted at my birth with inalienable and natural rights. That's what you instruct the judge of, and all of a sudden, he's, okay, get out of here. I want to mess with you. Let me go through that I, for instance. Lowercase, star on top, a dot on top. That goes back to the very, very first writings ever printed on a cave wall. Remember Paleo Indians, they went into the cave and they were doing the artwork. What did they have to work with as far as this idea of an expression of me? I want to put a picture of me up on this wall chasing this buffalo, throwing a spear, whatever. What did they have to identify themselves? Little stick figures.
Yeah.
What did they put the dot up there for? Third eye. The third eye refers to the pineal gland, which is our connection to everything spiritual. It gives us a sense of God. It gives us a sense of righteousness and wrong. The pineal gland that sits right behind here, we call it the third eye. You've seen it on shaman doctors, Eastern cultures. What it's referring to is that wondrous little nuclear device. That's what it is, and it's powered by uranium, thorium, enriched by chromium and zinc and iron and all of this. We need that because we're still stardust, right? We need to be repowered with vitamin E from the sun. What's happening up there in the sun? We have this huge orb. It's a furnace, if you would, churning hydrogen into helium, helium into carbon, carbon into iron, and all of that. I've talked to some of you about the origins of all of our precious metals: gold, silver, platinum, magnesium sulfite, vanadium, uranium, on and on and on. The only place that you can create that stuff is in what we know as a supernova event. That's an exploding star. And these are happening all the time. All the time. A supernova is the condensation, it's the accretion of heavy iron atoms until the atoms are so condensed that the supernova really occurs from a golf ball size piece of iron that you could never ever lift. It would have the weight of multiple planets right there. And it's reduced to such pressure that all of a sudden it goes. It's in the microseconds after this detonation that all of our precious metals are created: gold, silver, platinum. There's not a mining district on the entire Earth, not one, that is not centered around a meteoritic or asteroidal deposit. It's all about the minerals. China wants them. Speaking of China, this will give you a background of Harry Reid's activities. 3 years ago, China cut off its exportation of heavy and precious metals and elements, stunning our country's manufacturers. Guess what they did last January 2013? They cut those exports by 95%, leaving the American manufacturers to go, what do we do now? Those rare earth elements like tantalum and chromium and zinc and a whole list of them, used in the production of electric motors, solar panels, wind turbines, all of that. Stunned, absolutely. The corporate structures in America, the high prices of these metals and elements got out of hand for the Americans. Instead of folding up shop, China said, hey, wait a minute, you guys got some pretty nice stuff going on over there, and we know you don't like to pay these prices. Why don't you come over to China, set up your shops? They did. 48 major corporations left. The United States and China, they're over there sitting on free land, cheap labor, and now they don't have to worry about importing these precious metals at enormously high rates. They still get their electric motors done, solar panels and all of that. They get them produced cheap. Bring in Harry Reid. China says, hey, Harry, you're a U.S. Senator. Can you help us out with this? Oh, yeah. Back in the 80s, this whole thing started with the Bundys. Early 80s, they knew that these precious metals were here. Harry said, hey, mind if I bring my son in? Or I think it was Rory already. He was already set up. With the Chinese, maybe it was Rory that came after his dad. Help me out, our father-in-law. Help us out. And they did. The Chinese love this stuff. Not only do they want a monopoly, a global monopoly on rare earths, they don't want anybody else to have them either. What's property? Rory Reid was able to bring property to the Chinese. What do they own here? Chinese own a lot of this country. This whole idea of setting up a mill and stuff like that here on Bundy's site, it would only be for refracting the minerals and sending them back to China, where the United States military complex couldn't get their hands on magnesium dolomite. Better that the Chinese have them, right? Now you have the bottom line of the story. We're going to bring you up to date on some issues that were presented me. When are we going home? Very soon.
I have one question. Is there any teeth behind the piece of paper that you turned in? I mean, is anything going to happen to Holder or Lee? I mean, for sure, they've been taking these guys around for a long time.
You know how we do it? This is what Jeff and I have been working on. We've been working on this before we hit the ground here. We knew what we had to do. I have some personal connections. I'm not going to get into them. But we've been pulling some political strings to make sure that every one of you guys is safe.
Thank you.
That whole thing with the drone shit.
If I could, I'm running out of time. Your name and your notice of for private attorney general, where we could find that maybe.
Sure. Steve Curry.
Steve
Montrose,
Curry.
Colorado. Proud of it.
Okay. And do you have a website?
We do.
Do you have your notice